Hello everyone and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. As a person who has worked in TV for most of my life, specifically TV news, I've noticed that over the decades that there's a custom that's developed among the American press. Exclude Catholics from any prominent discussion about Scripture or theology in general. Whether it's a news program, a History Channel documentary, a CBS special, Catholics are simply ignored in these discussions. For example, before he got his new show and time slot on Fox News, Glenn Beck had Protestant minister John Hagee on his old show last year. Hagee is good at two things: knowing next to nothing about Scripture and convincing millions that he knows everything about sacred Scripture. You want an example? Watch the clip from the show.
He's Pastor John Hagee. Welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
I'm delighted to be here, Glenn Beck. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I want to talk to you tonight about the things that people in the sane world just don't say, and that is we're living in the end times. You believe that?
I do indeed, and I believe the Bible is very specific to the fact that we do live in the end of days.
Okay.
Well, it had to do with the time that they were living in and the theological environment in which they were raised. My father, who was a Bible preacher in the middle 40s, made this statement: if the state of Israel is not reborn, we have a reason to believe the Bible is not true. And believe me, for my father, who was a Bible scholar, that was a monumental statement. That's called the tribulation period. That happens after these 10 signs. The rebirth of Israel, Jesus said in Matthew 24:32, that look at the fig tree, and when it blooms again, you will know that my coming is nigh at hand.
Okay, that's Israel.
That's Israel.
Okay.
Hagee's comments are part of a larger agenda of fundamentalist Protestants to link the end of days to the nation-state of Israel. But it's all wrong. These guys don't know Scripture. What they do know is how to twist Scripture. They're actually very good at that. And the media always seems to oblige, always seems to give them a platform one way or the other. Take in this scene for just a moment. Here's a poorly educated Protestant minister holding forth on Scripture as if it's his own personal revelation, getting to express this imbecility on a national television program to an audience of millions, hosted by a former Catholic turned Mormon whose religion doesn't even believe Jesus is divine. Hagee goes on to quote Scripture out of context, put his own spin on it, deny the truth of other passages, come up with a top 10 list of why we know we are in the end of days. An annoying expression, if there ever was one. See, Protestants overuse that to make it sound like that they're deeply wedded to the Scripture. The only Scripture they're deeply wedded to is the gospel according to themselves. The Catholic Church is responsible for the canon of sacred Scripture, no one else. The Catholic Church, and only the Catholic Church, discovered which books were inspired. This nonsense that any old minister can come along and pick up a book and discern the will of God is the best example of the old maxim, a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. As Hagee continues spewing his fraudulent theology about having discovered that we're in the end of days, perhaps he might want to pay attention to the Scripture passage in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, verse 36, where Jesus says, "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son." Of course, it would also be great if the media would allow a Catholic to say the truth and refute this kind of stupidity. Now, you may be saying, okay, Voris, but so what? What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. It's that every challenge to the truth left unanswered weakens people's faith, by definition. Fraudulent theology and errant preaching confuse people. That's why leftist Catholics in name only have engaged in this kind of subterfuge for decades to deliberately confuse their fellow Catholics. This is one reason we ask you to help support us, to drag this craziness into the light and expose it for what it is, whether it's in the media, inane Protestant ranting, unorthodox Catholic theologians and clergy. We need your help in exposing the lies and promoting the truth. If you're not a premium member, please sign up today. There's a little click button right up there. Learn the faith so you can help teach others. Evangelizing is not an option. It's a command from the Son of God. I'm Michael Voris.